Do you have a family of 7 people? Are you looking for a car that is reliable? Are you looking for a vehicle that can go off-road and yet at the same time is good in the snow? Well, Toyota says that's your ride. It's the brand new 2020 Toyota Highlander. And coming up in this video, we're gonna take it for a ride. We're gonna look under the hood. I'm gonna force myself into the back seat. And of course, at the end of this video, I'm gonna tell you whether you should buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it. So let's get started with what's under the hood. Now this is the 4th generation of the Highlander. And under the hood is no longer that measly 4-cylinder. Well, okay, if you get the hybrid, you still get the 4-cylinder, but in this, you get a V6. And it puts out just under 300 horsepower and just under 250 pound-foot of torque. And in the case of this model, which is almost the top of the line, you also get all-wheel drive. The Highlander comes in 5 models, the L, the LE, our tester, the XLE, the Limited, and the Platinum. So we're kind of in the middle of the range. This particular one starts at $41,200 plus $1,200 worth of destination. And if you're wondering how much it tows, if you get the V6, you're looking at 5,000 pounds. If you get the hybrid, 3,500 pounds. Let's talk about the competition. This is a very crowded segment with very popular cars like the Ford Explorer, which is also all new and bigger, and of course premium vehicles that really blew everybody away this year, and that's the Telluride and the Palisade. Both of those cars have really upped their game in terms of the interior and have really brought Toyota, I think, up a level as well, because if I look around the interior, it is much more upscale. The materials for the most part are soft and premium. You can get much more interesting color palettes for the interior, and all in all, many of these buttons and even the steering wheel feels much more Lexus than Toyota. As 3-row crossovers go, the Highlander isn't that much longer. I mean, if you want a bigger 3-row in this class, you probably look at the VW Atlas, maybe the Ford Explorer, maybe the Chevy Traverse. But what Toyota has done, which is interesting, is they've increased the amount of slide that the 2nd row does by 1.5 inches. So now the seat slides all the way forward, giving you much better access to the rear, or so they say. Let's find out. Of course, the problem is you still have a flat floor. I do have 0 headroom, and let's see what happens when I put the seat back. Yeah. The good news for us taller people, and I'm 6'2", so I'm probably not the right person to be back here, is you can recline this rear seat to give you a little bit more room. So that's just as uncomfortable. But the real question is how much room is in the front now that I've moved the seat forward? And the answer is not a lot. If you like to drink water, of course, the Highlander does have 1, 2, 3, 4 cup holders back here, 10 in the front, so for a total of 14. That's a lot of cup holders. And I also counted USB ports. Well, let me show you those. So in total, there are in fact 5 USB ports and 3 climate zones. So the driver gets one, the passenger has one, and the folks back here get to share one. And you get this. Yep, I love those privacy screens. I always feel like I'm very special because now I can see out, but you can't see me. I think we need to give this vehicle a little bit of the beans and just see how much power it has. You know, that's not bad. It could be because I'm usually at a mile above sea level, and here in Texas I'm not. But for a 7-row passenger car that's meant to move you and your family across country or across town, it's pretty good. 300 horsepower seems about right for this segment. Now, if you do want the best fuel economy, Toyota does make this in a hybrid, and that one gets an astounding 34 mpg combined, which for a 7-passenger vehicle is really good. I did a review of it over at TFL Car, so if you want to check that out, head on over to TFL Car and you can see the things that really surprised me about the Highlander. I believe that the Highlander might be the only vehicle in the segment that has dynamic all-wheel drive. What I mean by that is, now that I'm driving, this vehicle splits power 50-50, but if you get the premium models, you can also get a left to right torque split. The favorite part of this car for me has to be these buttons right here. Not the fact that you've got a sport mode and an eco mode, but that you've got a mud and sand mode, and that you have a rock and dirt mode, and that you have a snow mode. And that has to do with Toyota's all-wheel drive system. It actually appropriates 50% of the power to the front and 50% of the power to the rear wheels most of the time. But when you push these buttons, what the system does is it changes the way the power goes to whatever wheel has traction. So in other words, if your left front wheel is spinning and your right front wheel has traction, the ABS system will brake the left front wheel so that power goes to the right front wheel. And that's what these do. They basically optimize for off-road use. And with 8 inches of ground clearance, this vehicle actually might be somewhat off-road capable. I'm going to hold off on a final decision until we actually get it off-road, but once again, like a stretched RAV4 Adventure, it has some bones that could actually be used off-road. Now that we've worked our way to the front of the vehicle, let me point out some of the really interesting features that are unique to the Highlander. First and foremost, if you get the top trims, Platinum or the Limited, you get Toyota's biggest screen that you can buy, which is 12.3 inches. In this XLE, it's not quite 12.3, but nevertheless, it's a big screen. Plus, here's the important part. You can get Apple CarPlay, you can get Android Auto, you can get Alexa integration, as well as Waze standard in all trim levels, which is pretty cool. And speaking of cool, you still have this double shelf design that now allows you to place your things right where you want them. And if I want to charge it, check this out. This is probably the coolest feature. I just pull away this little center armrest and I've got Qi wireless charging right where I want it, where it's convenient and easy to use. The new Toyota Highlander starts at $34,600, and that's excluding destination charge, and that's a $2,770 price hike over the 2019 model. If you want all-wheel drive, you're going to have to spend an additional $1,600 to $1,900 depending on the model. And speaking of the models, let's talk about how much they'll cost. The L will start at $34,600, the LE at $36,800, the XLE at $39,600, the Limited $43,650, and of course the top of the line Platinum $46,850, which is a significant amount for a significant vehicle. So overall, I like this car. I like this car a lot, which only leaves one more thing I have to do, and that is go outside and tell you whether you should, in my mind, buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it. So let's do that. I started this review by saying that this is a car that Toyota wants you to buy if you want basically a stretched RAV4. In other words, something that holds 7 people. And I think in all, Toyota has succeeded. The interior is right up there with many of the competitors. The size is kind of the Goldilocks, not too big, not too small, but just right. And if you want the hybrid, 34 mpg combined is pretty phenomenal for a vehicle that can hold and take up to 7 people on short trips, 5 on longer trips. So, on the TFL scale of buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it, I'm going to give it a lease it until I take it off-road and find out if actually that rock and mud mode works, in which case I might kind of push it up to a buy it. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, you know what, real world reviews. See you guys next time. Ciao.